All right, so I knew this wasn't right, so forget this. That's not 60 per unit. Bottom line is, for A, they're asking us the sales price per unit, if its target of earning an operating income of $200,000 by producing and selling 40,000 units during the first year. And so, again, that's this number right here, the $100 per unit. Now, we backed into that because you have the variable cost per unit of 80. We ran the numbers here to determine that the required contribution margin per unit must be 20%, or excuse me, $20 per unit. And we did that by adding these two numbers. We know what the fixed costs are. We know what our operating income, at least hopefully, will be. And so you add those two together, you come up with 800,000. You divide that into the 40,000 units to come up with $20 required contribution margin per unit. And so if you put that number in, you know that this number gets subtracted from this number to come up with this number. You can automatically come up with the back end to the $100 per unit. Okay, so that answers A. We don't know what the per unit cost of fixed costs is, although we could certainly figure that out. If you're selling 40,000 units at $100 per unit, how much are you selling? Well, you're selling $4 million of product. If your variable costs are $80 per unit and you sell 40 units, 40,000 units, your variable costs must be $3,200,000. Of course, you could back into this, right? How do you do that? Well, you start from here and go up, right?
I'm glad you said something.
But it really doesn't matter. You come up with the same answer, right? So 800,000 minus 600,000, sorry, I'm a little off there, equals 200,000. Okay? So whatever percentage, whatever dollar amount this is to this is your per unit fixed costs. But they don't ask us that, I don't believe, so not really too worried about it. All right, so that answers A. The answer is $100 per unit that they must sell in order to reach an operating income of $200,000. B, at the unit sales price computed in Part A, the $100, how many units must the company produce and sell to break even? Assume all units produced are sold. All right, so B, break even in units or break-even sales in units if you want, equals fixed cost divided into your contribution margin per unit, CMPU as I call it. Okay? So we know our fixed costs are $600,000. We know our contribution margin per unit is this $20 right here. And so the break-even sales in units is 30,000 units. Okay? And if you were to take and put 30,000 in there, make this 3 million, you'd have 30,000 minus, or excuse me, 30,000 times 80, that would be 3 million minus 2,400,000, which would make this contribution margin of 600,000 minus 600,000 equals operating income of 0, right? So there's more than one way to skin this cat, but it's also a good way to check your work. All right, so that's it for B. C. What will be the margin of safety in dollars if the company produces and sells 40,000 units at the sales price computed in Part A? So the $100 times 40,000 units. And so that's simply this. And they're asking for dollars here. So $4 million is our projected sales. Our break-even sales is $3 million. That's this number, 30,000 units, times $100 per unit. And so our margin of safety in dollars is $1 million. Now what is it in units? Well, it's simply the 40,000 minus the 30,000 units, 10,000 in units. But here they're asking for dollars. Okay? All right. Moving the paper up. Next, they ask for, assume that the marketing manager thinks that the price of this product must be no higher than $96 to ensure market penetration. Will setting the unit price, or excuse me, the sales price at $96 enable NATHA to break even, given the plans to manufacture and sell 40,000 units? Will setting the sales price at 96 enable NATHA to break even, given the plans to manufacture 40,000 units? Okay. So they're changing it up. So essentially you've got this going on. I'm going to move it back down. So instead of 100, you've got 96. Time to get whiteout out. If you're selling 40,000 units at 96, you're not going to have $4 million of revenues. You're going to have something less, right? So and the question is, will they still be able to break even? So again, break even in units. We just change up the numbers here. You've got, in this case, 600,000 divided into 16, which is, if you look up here, 96 minus 80 is 16 contribution margin per unit, right? And so if we bring that 16 down here, that equals what? $37,500. Excuse me, 37,500 units that need to be sold in order to break even. So the question is, in D, will setting the sales price at 96 enable Natha to break even, given the plans to manufacture and sell 40,000 units? Well, yeah, because you've got, in this case, a margin of safety of what? 40,000 units, and this margin of safety is in units. You plan to sell 40,000. Your break even in units is 37,500. And so you've got a margin of safety of 2,500 units. And if you want to put that into dollars, of course, that would be times 96 per unit. So bottom line, you've got a margin of safety in units of $2,500, or excuse me, 2,500 units. So the answer is you will more than break even selling 40,000 units at $96 per unit. Okay? So anyway, that's problem 20.1b. Hopefully you can take this information and work problem 20.1a. Okay?